everybody, this is Elise with P, and I wanted to give you a quick rundown on what I'm doing in my garden today in this early spring, maybe even late winter morning. This is Jake. If you haven't met him yet, he's a pretty cute little guy. The plant in front of me right now is called a hellebore. If you haven't seen these before, they're often called Lenten Roses. You'll find them in garden centers. They're usually around $25 to $30 a piece, with some varieties potentially costing even more. You might be able to find them in cheaper locations. I think I bought this one at Trader Joe's for about $15. If I find one for under 20, I'm likely to purchase it because I absolutely love these plants. Things that are great about them is that they spread quickly. I think this was one plant when I bought it, and I now have two crowns here with a third coming up right here, and potentially, nope, that guy's not coming up. So yeah, looks like one has spread to three on this guy, which is awesome. So they spread quickly. They do self-seed, so if you're not looking for something that can spread relatively aggressively, probably not a great fit for your garden. But if you're the kind of person who wants to have color in early spring, these are a great bet because they are gonna have this absolutely beautiful bloom early in the year, depending on what your weather looks like. This year they came up a little bit later because we had a really cold snap at the end of February, beginning of March. So that being said, hellebores, wonderful plant. So first things first, this guy's in bloom right now, which is awesome. This one's about to bloom. Both of these are healthy enough that I can take old foliage off of them and it's not gonna impact the plant. Pickle is gonna visit us as well. So we're gonna clean up some of the foliage on this guy. I wanted to walk through some common things you may see if you are growing these in your garden that you can look out for and potentially remove leaves from if you're concerned about the health of the plant. First things first, this leaf is very clearly dead. I don't even really need to cut that one. It just came off on its own pretty easily. This one did the same thing a moment ago. So anything that's clearly dead, just remove it. I would wait until the flower has at least bloomed before doing this for a couple of reasons. One, old leaves, even if they have a disease, are going to provide nutrients for the plant using photosynthesis. If you do this too early, you are taking away energy from a potential bloom that the plant's gonna have. This is Blitzkrieg. She also wanted to be a part of the excitement out here. They must be talking without me. So you wanna wait for the plant to at least bloom. If you'd like it to spread in your yard, I would also allow it time to go to seed development before taking anything off of it. That being said, there's a couple things wrong with some of these leaves. You can see on here that I've got some brown edges. And if you look real close, which you may or may not be able to do, I can put a close-up in the video here momentarily. If you look really close, you'll see that there's a black ring around the brown spots. So the brown spots are dry. That piece of the leaf is already dead. That's not doing anything for the plant. But where it's black, it indicates that I actually have a fungal infection spreading on this leaf. This one also has the same thing. It's a little bit more clearly pronounced. You can see that there is definitely something impacting this leaf, but the majority of it is still healthy. So I'm actually gonna leave this guy, especially because these other two are resting on the ground, which means that they're much more likely to pick up fungal pathogens. This one being against the tree means that it's probably less likely to be sitting in a pool of water, and that fungus may not grow as rapidly as these ones will. So I'd expect both of these leaves to actually have issues throughout their life cycle. This fungus likely won't kill the plant. It's probably fine to leave, but for aesthetic purposes, this will look a little bit better if I just clean it up. And that's the goal here. If I do leave these though, there is some benefit to keeping them on the plant because of photosynthesis. I'm not concerned about this one going to seed though. I'm not necessarily looking for this to spread in this portion of my garden because I have a ton of plants that will pop up here throughout the season that I don't need this to displace. So that being said, now that I've got the flowers blooming, I'm gonna go ahead and take both of these leaves off of the hellebore. That way I don't have issues with that fungus continuing to spread and potentially causing future issues for the plant. Like I said, I'm leaving this one though because I do want this one to continue gaining production for the flower to bloom fully and to potentially put out a second flush of blooms. And it's, like I mentioned, it's likely not going to die back all the way. And if it does, I'll cut it back before it gets to the point where it really impacts the rest of the plant. But you can see that my stems are healthy. The flowers, the blooms themselves have a good zeal to them. There's nothing wrong with it. So that being said, this fungal disease is more aesthetic than it really is a health issue for this plant. So yeah, that's hellebores, and I hope you enjoy them, but these are some of my absolute favorites. So I'm gonna walk around my garden and show you a couple other spots where I have them so you get an idea of exactly what they're like and you can get a better look at some of the varieties that exist, as well as just generally some of the things you may see at this point of the season for them. Right now, these have been underneath a layer of leaves all winter. So a lot of what I'm looking at right now actually has pretty aggressive fungal growth on them. So there is a lot of opportunity for cleanup in this bed. I have mostly allowed it to just sit and do its own thing because I am hoping to fill this in completely with hellebores without having to actually purchase new ones by allowing these to go to seed. So earlier I mentioned leaving leaves that have enough green in them to allow for photosynthesis because there's still chlorophyll in that leaf to get through seed production. But with the state of these leaves and the overall unkempt appearance of the bed, I am going to clean up most of these leaves. So first things first, I'm going to get a rake and pull all of that out of here, clean it up to improve the airflow in here, to just reduce the amount of moisture that the soil and these plants as a whole are holding on to. All right, so now that this is cleaned up a little bit, you can see much more clearly what's going on in the bed. You have a better idea of what the actual state of the plants is. And like I mentioned, there is a decent amount of fungal infection that did take hold over the winter. So I'm gonna clean that up now and walk you through which ones I am gonna clean and which ones I intend to leave based on what I'm seeing. So first things first, I'll go through and remove any of the very obviously dead or dying leaves. So this one looks like it got sun scalded. My favorite thing about this bed is that it really only gets morning sun unless it's wintertime because all of the trees right to the west of me block out the sun in the summer. In the winter, it gets a decent amount of sun, but not so much that I'm too worried about any leaf burn. We have a little bit here, but nothing too crazy. So I'll remove those ones first just because they're clearly not doing much for the plant in this state. Again, we want to leave any leaves that are not clearly dead or on their way to the point where they're on their way out, because we do want to see good flower production. And like I mentioned, I want this to fill in completely with hellebores. So I am intending to allow these plants to go to seed. The number of leaves I'm taking compared to the total number of leaves on these plants though, I'm not worried about them being able to produce seeds at this rate because they do have quite a bit of foliage on them. There's pretty good evidence of a fungal infection right here. Any of this black is what I'd be concerned about spreading. This one has gotten to the point where it's taken a whole leaf. So I am gonna take this little branch off just to make sure that it is not continuing to spread down the plant. Depending on what fungus this is, it could cause simply leaf death or it could cause plant death. I'm under the impression that this is a fairly innocuous fungus because I haven't actually seen any hellebores die in this bed, and it's been the same soil, the same situation. I've always had fungal infections over the winter from leaving my leaves. I believe this is a fairly mild fungal infection that's not going to cause death of the actual plant itself. And we'd see a lot more symptoms if it were truly infected to the point where the plant was going to die. We wouldn't have quite as many blooms showing up. These look pretty healthy regardless of the state of the leaves with the fungal infection.